Hello there, welcome back to UB Studio and on my fourth self-portrait vlog. It is kind of repeating topics, but I'm going to narrate and explain as in detail as possible, so it could really help you to create your own self-portrait as well. So for set design, on this photo shoot, I used a lot of fabrics that I have, and these are just sheer curtains that I think I found on Amazon. And I think fabrics or curtains are one of the essential props or essentials that I have because I use it over and over again. I'll probably talk about it more on my number 2 point when I talk about the essentials. But fabric's important because I typically make my photo shoot on a very shallow or very small area, but fabric really makes that area have depth of field. And another prop is a window. This is a window that I bought at a vintage mall in Alabama. And window is also a prop that creates another new plane that gives a new perspective. And of course, I just use them over and over again. And what I usually do is as you see, I'm nailing it down so I could have some strings attached and I could hang on these backdrop stands. So for me, because I do photo shoots a lot and especially self-portraits, it seems like I have a lot of props, but they're actually just repeating essentials that I have. So I always have fabric or some kind of sheer curtains like this, or these windows. I just use it over and over again. I think I have like 3. And of course, I buy just fresh flowers. I think that's like the only thing I kind of buy it new all the time because the flowers become the dominant aesthetic of the photo shoot. It kind of decides how the photo shoot's going to kind of look and decides the color palette as well. But if I usually have these essentials and I use it over and over again, they kind of become a pattern, and those patterns create a unique style of my photography. And not only that, they kind of represent who I am, like the curtains and the windows and the flowers. They do have symbolic meanings, and I think they represent who I am, and it will constantly reflect who I am, and that eventually becomes my own unique style. And next is camera setup. I believe this might be one of the difficult parts that photographers if you are not used to doing camera setup by yourself. But I think this part is really important and it really needs practice, even if it takes time. I usually do a camera setup before I get dressed, because it takes longer than I usually assume, and usually the first try of doing the setup, it might not be what I've been planning in my mind. So this is a live shoot, and if I have a camera or Canon cameras that actually do Bluetooth connection with my phone. So I look at it on my phone so I could actually be in the screen, and I use my prisms, and I use the flowers and plants clipped on my light reflector stand, and create that reflections and plants kind of framing around the screen. So those become kind of like a frame, or like a decorative element that becomes a frame. And then, as you see, I usually step into the screen and kind of imagine how I'm going to look. And according to where I stand, I kind of see the relationship between the plants and the prism, and kind of edit the composition from there. This might be a really easy step, but I think it's important as well, because I usually just start right away. I think I create the photo shoot, like the set design and like choosing the garment and choosing the flowers and the color palette. This all is there to start. Like, I'm doing all those things to start. And my goal is not to finish the shoot, but my goal is actually to start a shoot and get at least one photo. So we have to, or I usually really direct myself not to really focus on like, I really need to finish it and have 100 photos. I actually focus on, okay, let's make a setup and let's make a narrative so I can actually be in the narrative and make a start. This is really important, because actually making a photo shoot with a set design and all that by yourself is not easy. So it's difficult to reach when you're thinking, or when I'm thinking that I have to have this successful many photos. It might be hard to reach on the first day, but it's important to know that give it a start right away. Go see, because if I don't actually be in the screen right away, I don't know what to edit and how to move on to the next step, or what to edit. So starting and just throwing yourself and being in that scene is really important. And as you go in there and time passes, the time that you are more in front of a camera, you'll know what kind of pose and what kind of facial expressions that you want to do. Number 5, I'm going to give a little detail of posing tips, and it's about just small movements. I don't really move much when I capture myself. I'm usually really about the small movements of my jawline, of the perspective of my eyes looking, or my lips if they're open, if they're closed, the angles of the flowers that's surrounding me, and not only the small movements of my body parts. I do look at the relationship between the window or the prism light, so it creates kind of like a harmony, and depending on that, I really try to kind of see where the most comfortable position of my face is according to those elements, and I move small as possible but to find that right place. Next tip in posing is about connection to props. So in this case, because I had a floating window, it was very easy to decide to kind of connect and be close to it. And if you do have any kind of props, even if it's just a wall behind you, don't be afraid to, touch it, lean against it, kind of make connection to it, because the shoot that I'm creating, it's not like taking a photo for a passport. It's more about creating the narrative and creating the story, which it needs emotional charge. So in case to do that, it really needs to create connection. But because I'm alone, I usually try to create connection between my flowers, my props, my dresses, and that's how it works. So this is a live shot when I did the window shoot. It was kind of difficult because the window had a little hazy glass on it, but that's why I decided to actually kind of put my face onto the window, and that kind of tangible connection between the props will really help you actually gain more confidence to make emotional or interesting facial expressions, because you're not just alone making a dead stand and making like an awkward sturdy face, but you're actually with the prop, creating that face and creating a visual emotional charge that it's very interesting to see. Next posing tip is to see light as composition. So composition meaning it's an art. Composition means what kind of shape is occupied in a space. So I put light as a number one composition. So I put light as first shape that dominates my canvas here, which is my phone screen or my camera screen, and then I become the second shape or second dominant feature or composition in the screen. Then I try to make an harmonious connection between the light as composite, the light shape or the shape as a light. And it's important because light gives a very strong element that could not only make the photo very dramatic, but it also gives a very sentimental look. So as I was shifting here and there, I kind of finally had the sunset light kind of on top of my eye or forehead, and depending on that, I kind of knelt down to become the second shape of the composition of this artwork. So there is a full composition of the prism light, sunlight, and then below there's me. So I think personally, from my experience, if you decide to really follow the light, I usually don't fail the photo shoot, because light, it creates and generates such soft but strong push to the subject, in this case me. It creates a beautiful look that I can't really create with artificial light, and that's why I really put the light as the first dominant composition in my photo shoot. And next is still life, and I'm glad I actually got the live screen of my camera screen on my phone. And as you see, I think I kind of have a repeating composition or pattern on my still life. I usually have a prism light on top or on the bottom, and I use my hand and my flowers in the center. Now I see it, I think I'm kind of imitating or mimicking my portraits as well. My portraits are usually very centered, and other elements such as light and the plants kind of surround them like a frame. And after my portrait shoot, I just kind of take off my camera from the tripod and I go around the set design and make photos of still life. And it's kind of like a footprint that I leave of this set design, because this set design never comes back again. So I try to, I don't really think much, but I kind of put the prism on the camera or the plant on my camera and go around the set design before I put down the set design. And of course, as you've seen, these still life photos work really, really well for my double layouts. And I think these still life also kind of reflect who I am without showing the face. And I think these still lifes also kind of speak like a person. So I usually really try to include these still life shots after my portrait photo shoot. Thank you so much for coming along this long vlog that I did not expect to be this long, but I really enjoyed looking back on my self-portrait, and I hope my tips and tricks really helped you, and I really encourage you to keep shooting and seeing my vlog. See you next time.